Hello chess friends and welcome to Jozarov chess channel and welcome to an amazing tournament that started today. Welcome to the Superbet Poland Rapid and Blitz chess tournament that's going on now in the beautiful town of Warsaw. We have now 10 players that are battling it out for the throne of this amazing chess event. Among many great players, I think the most important thing is here that Magnus Carlsen is playing. I'm really looking forward to see the next game between Magnus Carlsen and Gukesh, who won now recently with a great result, the candidates in 2024. I think it's a game that everyone wants to see. Everyone wants to see where is Gukesh compared, of course, to Magnus, because Gukesh has, of course, now the opportunity to become the world's youngest world champion of all times. And the setup of this event is like this. First of all, we'll see a rapid event. We'll see a one-round robin of rapid chess. The tempo of the games is 25 minutes on the clock plus 10 seconds increment per move. And then later we'll see a two-round robin of blitz chess with 5 minutes on the clock and 2 seconds increment per move. So it will be a dynamic tournament for us to follow for sure, with really great games, with immortal tactics, with beautiful, epic and spectacular setup. So in my opinion, really a beautiful chess event for us to follow in the next couple of days. So we're starting now the round one with amazing gameplay by Vegi against Magnus Carlsen. A really interesting game that shows that only one inaccuracy can cost you the game. So that's why this rapid chess, I think, is more dynamic, because we'll see probably many inaccuracies, mistakes or blunders. Let's see now this game, in my opinion, really an amazing game from this event so far. So with the white pieces here, Vegi opened with the move e4. We have c5 by Magnus, knight to f3, knight to c6, and after bishop to b5. Now I would say this becomes even the most popular approach now these days, going into the so-called Rossolimo Nyezhmetdinov attack, simply attacking the knight, of course, trying to mess up the pawn structure by taking out the knight here with the bishops. Magnus continues with the move g6. Magnus is saying, okay, you can take out the knight, but at least I will battle for the d4 square in a different way. So you see, in the beginning, it's really a battle for the d4 square, so that's why Magnus develops like this. And this was Magnus Carlsen, I think, main approach also in the World Chess Championship match against Fabiano Caruana, when Fabiano played off in this Rossolimo Nyezhmetdinov attack against Magnus in their very famous match. So after move g6, we have bishop takes c6 by Vegi. Magnus, of course, continues with d takes c6. This is a correct approach, I think, a better approach, simply continuing to have a control around the square d4. As I said in the beginning, this is simply a battle only for one square. We have now the move d3. Magnus continues now with queen to c7, wants to play now e5 and have a further grip around the square e5. d3, we have now this move e5, after bishop d3, pardon me here, e5 by Magnus has to protect now the pawn on c5. We have now queen to d2 by Vegi, and now b6 by Magnus. Magnus builds now this nice grip on dark squares and wants to somehow reroute this knight somehow on the square d4. I think that's the most important strategic plan, but the knight has a tough quest to get there, so it's really hard to make something. Even if you manage somehow maybe to put the knight on d4, then c3 could come, then afterwards maybe the d3 could be weak. So it's really an unbalanced game of already for both sides. We have to say black has the advantage of the bishop pair, but of course black has also messed up pawn structure, so I would still say it's an equal game. We have now a4 by Vegi, a5 by Magnus, knight to a3, f6, and now we have kingside castling, bishop to e6 by Magnus, knight to c4, and now Magnus takes. Magnus is saying, I'll cause you also messed up pawn structure here. Now we have also a double pawn structure on the c file, but I think still white should be slightly better here because of the better bishop. You see, when it comes to really pure piece activity, I think white's dark square bishop is much better. At least it's targeting something. On the other hand, black's dark square bishop is a little bit paralyzed by its own pawn, so that's why I would say slightly better position here for white because of the better bishop's activity. We have a rook to d8, we have queen to e2, and now Magnus is saying, I don't want to have a bad piece here. I don't want to have a messed up piece that cannot be included into the game. I'll trade it off immediately. Good choice I think here by Magnus, simplifying the game till the end, going into the fully end game stage. We have now the move c3, bishop takes e3, queen to e3, and now Magnus simply develops. We have now the move b4, and now maybe even the first tiny little inaccuracy by Magnus. Magnus played now queen to d6. Magnus wanted to occupy immediately the d file, but I think Magnus should have first of all cleared the situation on the queen side. Here a better choice was simply to take, I think, c takes b4, c takes b4, a takes b4. You have an extra pawn. Vg would be pretty much forced to play the move c5 here to somehow disconnect the pawns, and okay, white would continue then the pressure on the c file. White would continue also with the pressure on the b file, but white has to get the pawn. White has to get the pawn back. So I think this was a better continuation for Magnus, but he played now the move queen to d6, allowed here simply Vg to take. We have b takes a5, b takes a5, and now rook to b1. You see, Vg occupied now the open file, the open b file. Magnus still has a messed up king. The king is still stuck in the center, so it's really tough now to play this position a little bit for black. You cannot even play something like, I don't know, queen to d3 immediately, because this pawn is hanging. This could be weak also. a5 is weak, so many now already positional problems by Magnus Carlsen. Magnus goes with king to f7. We have h3 by Vg, rook to d7. Now Magnus wants, of course, to occupy really till the end the d file that he has, of course, occupied in the beginning of the game, and now Vg doesn't react correctly. He plays the move rook to b2. Probably what Vg tried to do is somehow to play rook to d2 and get rid of the problems on the d file, but he should have simply, I think, stuck to this plan on the b file. A better choice. It's really hard to see how you can actually include more pieces into the b file by playing sort of on the other side of the board. Here a better choice was simply to play queen to h6. You look at this. With this move, Magnus cannot play with the rook. Magnus would be pretty much forced to play something like a knight to b8 to kick away the queen. But now the queen can come on c1, and with queen to b2, we can really fully occupy now the b file without even having any problems here. The knight is still controlling the d2 square. Maybe knight to e7 can be played, but now, as I said, we can even play rook to d1 later, queen to b2 and similar stuff. But with this sort of move order, I think Magnus would lose a very important tempo in development. So that's why rook to b2, I would say, the first inaccuracy here by Vg. We have queen to d3 by Magnus, queen takes c5, but Magnus can also take now, and after queen to c3, Magnus, I think, equalized now the game because of this inaccuracy by Vg with the move rook to b2. Rook from f to b1, Vg stuck now onto this plan. He's trying to get more activity on the b file, but Magnus says, okay, you have the b file, but I have also myself the very powerful d file. We have king to h2, g5 by Magnus. We have rook to b7, and now Magnus plays, I think, a little bit too aggressively here. He plays now the move h5. Maybe here better choice is to play queen to c2. Keeping an attack against the pawn on e4 after something like queen to a5. Okay, you lose this pawn, but then white is losing also this pawn. Maybe black get challenged in this way, but now we get the queen here. So again, I would say a pretty solid game. But Magnus went very aggressively with the move h5, and now again Vg didn't react correctly. Here Vg had, I think, a brilliant idea, but unfortunately for him, he didn't see this. But I think no one can see such a tactic in rapid chess. Here Vg had the opportunity to play rook from the 7th rank to b3, which is a huge difference. For instance, after something like queen to c2, an attack against this pawn, then Vg would have this opportunity, knight to e5. Very unpleasant tactic to handle. But as I said, in rapid chess, I'm not sure how many of us would even consider this move. Look at this. After f takes e5, queen to e5, maybe the rook can come into the game. Now you put more pressure here on the 7th rank. Black is forced basically to cover everything, but now we include this rook into the game. That's now the beautiful part. After something like queen takes c4, look at this. A rook to f3 is coming, and I think the position by black could collapse. The engine says it's a better position for white here, but I think it's also sort of a psychological impact. When you sacrifice such a piece in the center of the board, then sometimes the opponent cannot get back into this game. So I think if Vg would have found this tactic, Magnus Carlsen would have really a tough game here from this point on. But instead of rook from the 7th rank to b3, Vg played to rook from the 1st rank to b3 and it becomes now a huge problem because obviously Magnus occupies now here the 1st rank. The king is a little bit naked here. Queen to f4 is also a huge threat. For instance, you're trying something like, I don't know, rook to b1, then queen to f4 is going to happen, and then g4 is obviously the great plan here for for black. So after move queen to c1, Vg tried queen to a7, wasn't really good. Here Vg maybe had the opportunity to play h4 to somehow protect himself. Here after move g4, you have to obviously step back, but as I said, at least you're trying hold on to this position. But after queen to a7, okay, you have a very nice attack here on the 7th rank, but Magnus Carlsen found a beautiful defensive resource, king to e6. Really brilliant move. Magnus is simply getting out of this mess, and there's simply no good check anymore by white here. Really good defensive setup now for Magnus Carlsen. We have rook takes d7, or rook takes d7 here by Magnus, and now queen to a5. But it doesn't matter, because now this attack is rolling. The attack that we have seen, g4, where should you go? There is now this idea, knight to e1 you can play, or knight to g1. Actually, again, a new mistake here by Vg. Knight to e1 had to be played. He played knight to g1. Knight to e1, still, I would say black is much better here. Not maybe completely winning, but I think if black plays now the game correctly, black should be winning here. But knight to e1 at least gives you extra breathing space for the king. With the move knight to g1, you have basically cornered your king till the end. It becomes now a huge tactical problem for Vg. After move knight to e1, okay, again, black would probably continue with queen to f4. You have to play something like this. Queen to e4, we're trying rook to e3, then we pick up this one. Again, a messy position, as I said. I still think black is much better here, but with knight to g1, you really locked your own king, and Magnus continues now with queen to f4. Anyway, king to h1, look at this. The king has only now 2 squares, which is not, of course, a good setup here for white. We have now queen takes f2. Magnus takes out now the pawn. You see, if knight to e1 had been played by Vg, still we would have access to the g1 square with the king, so obviously a better continuation for white. So that's why here after queen to f2, queen to b6, Magnus gets challenged in this way. Vg is trying to trade off the queens to simplify the game, but now a great move by Magnus. g3 is of course not allowing here something like, I don't know, queen takes f2. Look at this, g takes f2, the knight has to move, and then there is this promotion. So basically in this scenario, white would have to give up the knight here for the pawn. So that's why after move g3 by Magnus, Vg tried rook to b1, competing now on the 1st rank, but now Magnus plays the brilliant rook. Queen takes b6, forcing the rook to come on the 6th rank, but now Magnus can occupy the 1st rank, and obviously what you're trying to do is get maybe this knight somehow to the square e2 and then put more pressure. Look at this, the king is cornered, as I said. Huge now problems here for white. So after move rook takes d1, we have a5, h4 by Magnus, we have a6, Magnus goes behind, Vg pushes the pawn, but now Magnus also creates here a passer, simply plays with the king. The knight has to still stay here and protect the c6 pawn, but actually Vg is in sort of a Zugzwang position. He doesn't have so many good moves. He's trying, of course, rook to b7, attacking the knight, but now Magnus can escape, and now after move a7, knight to f4, with the plan that we have talked about. There is the huge threat of knight to e2. We have now a8 the promotion, rook takes a8, rook to b1. Vg is finally protecting the 1st rank, but now Magnus plays, of course, with its passer, e4, rook to f1, and now after rook to a2, in this particular position, Vg resigns. There is simply no good protection of the g2 square. You can maybe try rook to e1 to somehow maybe get this knight out of, but it's not working. This square is taken, so now after rook to g2, I think the position is collapsing here for white. So great game here by Magnus Carlsen. I think really interesting idea in the Rossolimo Nyezhmetdinov attack with the black pieces. Magnus in the 1st day has now 2 draws and a win. He has good success, I think, and he's of course always, like in any tournament, I think the top favorite to win the whole thing. But I cannot wait to see the match between Magnus Carlsen and Gukesh. That's, I think, a game that I really want to see. I want to see where is Gukesh compared to Magnus Carlsen, although Gukesh is not such a great player, I would say, in rapid chess. He's better in this classical time formats where he has time to calculate, where he can find obviously the best continuations, where he has also great theoretical preparation. But I think in the next couple of years we can expect really Gukesh to be also a very aggressive, very strong rapid player for sure. So because he is a strong player for sure, so that's why I would say in this faster time formats Magnus is still the beast. But I'm still looking forward to see the game between Magnus Carlsen and Gukesh. So, okay, I hope that you enjoyed this game. Really interesting ideas we have seen here. Really solid opening theory. If you want to see some other commented chess games here on my YouTube chess channel, check out our playlist. Here's the link. And if you want to see more aggressive chess, check out our commented chess games played by computer series with some beautiful games played by Stockfish, Lila C0, and many other top AIs. And if you like this content, subscribe to my channel. See you soon with some more videos. And what do we say in the end? Chess is the best, of course.